of Chinese nationals arrested, now accused of running a multi-million-dollar money laundering and drug operation.
The complaint says the defendants were smuggled into the U.S. to work in a network.
According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, these defendants allegedly distributed large-scale quantities of.
Boston just witnessed one of the biggest marijuana trafficking busts in recent years, and the details reveal how deeply organized crime had already taken root inside ordinary American neighborhoods. Federal agents have charged 7 Chinese nationals accused of running a multi-million-dollar network of hidden grow houses scattered across Massachusetts and Maine. These were not large farms out in rural fields. Instead, they were ordinary suburban homes, places that looked normal from the outside, but were completely transformed inside into drug factories designed for non-stop production. According to prosecutors, the operation was carefully built to maximize profit and minimize attention, turning quiet streets into fronts for international crime. Workers were smuggled into the United States, their passports taken away, and they were forced to work until debts were repaid. What appeared to be ordinary housing developments were in reality industrial grow sites, controlled with intimidation and secrecy. The focus of the case was what investigators describe as a Chinese-run trafficking organization that spread across several towns in Massachusetts, including Braintree, Melrose, and Greenfield. Prosecutors say the mission of this group was straightforward: produce kilogram after kilogram of marijuana and use the Northeast black market as a steady stream of profit. But the drugs themselves were only one part of the scheme. The profits were laundered into cash, high-end jewelry, and even real estate holdings, allowing the group to disguise criminal money as legitimate wealth. It was a business model built to last: cheap labor, hidden grow houses, a reliable market for marijuana, and a system to recycle the profits back into assets that would appear legal on paper. Federal officials stressed that this was not just marijuana being grown for local use. It was part of an interconnected web that linked production in small towns directly to international money movement, with ties stretching back to China. The organization treated suburban homes like factories, communities like camouflage, and the black market like a gold mine. The timeline shows just how long this network was able to operate before law enforcement was ready to strike. Investigators say the scheme began around 2020 and continued for nearly 4 years, running through late 2024 before the coordinated takedown. During that period, agents tracked suspicious financial transactions, intercepted shipments, and gradually uncovered the network's structure. By following the money trail, they began to link houses, operators, and associates, until the evidence pointed clearly to a large organized conspiracy. The final stage came in October 2024, when multiple homes were raided in a coordinated strike. Inside, investigators found what they had long suspected: marijuana plants growing in carefully engineered rooms, safes stuffed with passports, and luxury goods purchased with black market cash. The raids exposed the true scope of the operation. What had looked like isolated houses turned out to be pieces of a wider puzzle, each one serving as part of a criminal enterprise that stretched across state lines and across international borders. The bust was not just a sudden raid. It was the conclusion of years of investigation, and it revealed how international criminal groups can quietly build entire empires inside communities where nobody thought to look. When the hammer finally came down in October 2024, it was clear this was not a small sweep, but the dismantling of a major organized network. 6 of the defendants were arrested in coordinated early morning raids, while 1 remains on the run and is now being pursued by federal authorities. Prosecutors made it clear that these were not low-level offenders or small-time growers. Each person arrested was a critical part of the larger enterprise, operating houses, handling cash, or managing the labor that kept the system running. The charges they now face are sweeping: drug conspiracy, large-scale money laundering, and the smuggling of foreign nationals into the United States for exploitation. Law enforcement officials emphasized that these arrests represented the cutting out of important links in a much bigger chain. Every individual taken down was another piece of a criminal business model removed from the board. And while 1 suspect remains a fugitive, the 6 already in custody represent the heart of the network, a structure designed to turn drugs into profit and profit into power. At the center of this case were not only drugs and money, but also human beings who had been exploited as part of the operation. Investigators say Chinese nationals were smuggled into the United States and forced to work inside the grow houses under harsh conditions. Their passports were seized, locking them in place with no ability to leave, no legal documents, and no freedom until debts were paid. Prosecutors describe this as a hidden system of bondage that was designed to trap workers inside a cycle of labor and debt. Behind the walls of suburban homes, people were being controlled and forced to maintain rows of marijuana plants, often living in the same houses where the drugs were being produced. This detail shocked even seasoned agents because it showed how international trafficking operations do not just exploit communities financially, but also exploit people directly, reducing them to tools of production. The bust revealed that what was hidden inside these neighborhoods was not just an illegal grow system, but a workforce of smuggled laborers who had been stripped of freedom and forced into silence. The evidence collected during the raids tells the story of just how much money and product was flowing through this network. In one home in Braintree, agents uncovered $270,000 in cash and several Chinese passports locked away in a safe, clear proof of both the laundering scheme and the worker exploitation. In Melrose, another raid uncovered 50 kilograms of processed marijuana ready for distribution, nearly $200,000 in cash, and a $65,000 Rolex watch still in its original box. Across multiple homes in both Massachusetts and Maine, the total seizures added up to over 100 kilograms of marijuana, an enormous amount for a single region, enough to flood local markets and supply networks across state lines. These numbers demonstrated that this was not just casual growing or side profit. It was a high-volume industrial network designed for non-stop production and steady distribution. Every kilogram seized was a reminder of how much had already been sold and how much more was planned. The money laundering side of the case showed how advanced the organization had become at hiding its profits. Agents allege that the total proceeds stretched into the millions, and they were moved through a variety of channels to keep them hidden. Cash was stuffed into car engine compartments to avoid detection. Bulk deliveries were routed through contacts in New York, and the profits were converted into homes, cars, and jewelry to create the appearance of legitimate wealth. Even during a 2023 traffic stop, suspects were caught with $36,900 in cash stuffed inside a vehicle, and one of them was wearing a shirt that literally read "money laundering," a bold and almost mocking display of how openly they treated their crimes. Investigators said this showed the arrogance of the network and the belief that their operation was untouchable. By uncovering this web of drugs, cash, and exploitation, federal agents not only dismantled a pipeline of marijuana, but also revealed how criminal organizations laundered dirty money into the clean fabric of local communities. Federal officials described this case as more than just a drug bust. They said it pulled back the curtain on how global networks infiltrate U.S. communities, hiding in plain sight while building wealth off the black market. The message was clear. This was never just about marijuana plants inside suburban homes. It was about organized crime exploiting neighborhoods, manipulating financial systems, and using human beings as disposable labor. Law enforcement leaders emphasized that the real danger was not only the drugs being grown, but the sophistication of the operation itself. These groups know how to hide, how to launder money, and how to blend into ordinary communities. By bringing down this network, officials wanted to show that these hidden empires can be uncovered, but they also warned that for everyone taken down, another may already be setting up behind closed doors. The bust was both a victory and a wake-up call, proof of how advanced these criminal enterprises are and how easily they can burrow into quiet neighborhoods. Investigators also revealed details of the tactics that made the operation so difficult to detect. They uncovered an East Coast contact list, a record linking cultivators, distributors, and contacts stretching back to China. Every grow house was designed to look like a normal home from the outside, with blinds closed and yards maintained. But inside, the properties were gutted and rebuilt as high-tech drug factories. Specialized lighting, irrigation systems, and electrical wiring were installed to maintain non-stop growth cycles. Cash was shuffled between safe houses, workers were rotated and kept under control by having their passports seized, and profits were disguised as legitimate purchases. Every house served a role, whether it was growing, storing, or laundering. Agents said this was no sloppy setup. It was carefully structured like a business, with every moving part supporting the larger machine. Neighbors often had no idea what was happening next door, which made the discovery even more alarming. To the outside world, they were just quiet homes in ordinary towns. To law enforcement, they were hubs in an international criminal pipeline. This level of planning, investigators warned, is what makes organized crime so dangerous. It can be invisible until it is already deeply rooted. The conclusion of the Boston raid leaves both relief and warning. 7 people charged, 6 arrested, 1 still on the run. Millions in profits uncovered, hundreds of kilograms of marijuana seized, luxury items, hidden cash, and stolen freedom exposed. On the surface, this is a major win for law enforcement, proof that years of investigation can pay off with significant results. But officials caution that the fight is far from finished. Organized crime adapts quickly. These groups find new houses, new towns, and new workers. They move their money through new channels and build new fronts. For communities, the warning is stark. Organized crime does not always look like a cartel compound guarded with weapons. Sometimes it hides behind the walls of quiet suburban homes, in neighborhoods where children play and families believe they are safe. The Boston case proved that global networks can embed themselves anywhere, turning ordinary streets into hidden crime scenes. For law enforcement, the work continues. For the public, the lesson is clear. Vigilance is necessary because these hidden empires thrive on silence, and without strong enforcement, they will continue to grow.